Alright, so what we have here is a dark Chevrolet intake. I just want to briefly go over just a real quick little sum up video on how to plumb an intake, usually what it takes. We've got your pre-assembled nitrous and fuel solenoid with the fittings and distribution blocks on. Red is fuel, blue is nitrous. See if you can look over here. We have an assortment of the tools. We have an array of different benders here. I typically use different ones depending on the circumstance. Pair of cutters, your tubing, your nut sleeves, your nuts, your jets, and really important, if you can see, is your you need a good reamer bit to ream your tubing, because every time you cut tubing, you need to ream the bit. All right. So something else I also use that are my own personal are these little bad jewels.
How long have you been
done instrument tech for 15, 20 years. So I've had these in the oil field for a long time, and I'm gonna try to put some instrumentation knowledge in about 5 minutes. 15 years worth of work in 5 minutes. Okay. So typically I've already got a set of 90-degree nozzles already in the intake, drilled and tapped. Remember, when you drill and tap an intake, when you tap it, do not run the tap all the way in, because it is a tapered thread. You need to determine how thick it is. When you run your tap in there, typically run it about a quarter, maybe a third way in there. Take the tap out, start screwing your nozzles in there, and make sure they're nice and tight so you don't bottom the nozzle out. You can either use Teflon tape or some paste when screwing these nozzles and getting them tight. Okay. So basically I've already got all these set up, and I just got some random jets. I mean, there's nothing specific, but typically when you want to plumb an intake, you really want to do the top side first, because this is the side closest to the carburetor. Of course, you don't want to screw yourself and get too close and waste a bunch of tubing. So you want to kind of keep it away. Typically take your solenoid, kind of get a good estimate. Basically, you know, basic system, easy. You want to put it typically over your nozzles, you know, for a basic 90 degree. And we'll start off by getting a piece of tubing and put a sleeve on. Just a quick note, you can bend the tubing without putting the nut on, but you cannot bend the tubing then put the sleeve on, because the sleeve will not go around the 90-degree radius. Okay? All right, you can see that there. Had a little high. And like I said, you want to bend the tubing with the sleeve on first, then you can put your 90-degree, then you can put your nut on here, but you need to really have that on first. And I'm just going to take a quick bend. I've done this a couple 100,000 times, so there's really no sense. How I always started off, you put the nut on first. You need to be consistent of where you keep your nut sleeve at all times. It stops right there on the fixed fixture. Just bend it at 90 degrees. As you can see, it's 90, maybe a little more, maybe a little less, but as so, you know. There you go. See, you can take the nut off at any given time, but you cannot take the sleeve off. So the first piece on this, our nozzles, the nitrous is on the top, so you need to put the nitrous on first. You just would screw it on like so, nice and snug. Take another piece, and if you've tapped it properly, your nozzles, you know, should typically be in the same depth. So that's what you need to be consistent on. Once again, make sure you have the sleeve in the same proper fixture when you bend every time. So 90 degree. And then you have it just like that. Then what you want to do is, kind of upside down here, trying to look at this. So you would take your nitrous side solenoid, very important, determine which side is the rear of the intake. Nitrous always going to the rear, that's where the bottle's at, that's where you need to be taking it. So typically you'd want to put the solenoid right in the middle. So just basically get a middle of your runners, mark it where the end of the tubing would grip. Take it off, cut it. I'm going to show you something after you cut it, which is very, very, very important. A lot of people forget, a lot of people don't know. That's okay. We're here to kind of educate you and give you a briefing on, if you can see this, see how that hole is closed up?
Let me zoom that in.
It's very important. If you can see that, you can see the difference of the two.
Yes.
One hole is closed up, one is not. Very important. Take your proper reamer. You need to ream it out. Usually when you do it, you can see now it's nice, clean, no trash, no dogs, logs, and frogs. You want to take a little air blower, blow it out, make sure it's clean. You're good to go. You want your system as clean as possible, because I tell you, one little flake of trash that's here on the table gets in them jets, it will not get any flow and it will burn something up. So you take this. If you can give me a 7/16 wrench, please. There we go. Okay. But just like I said, this is just a quick rundown, you know. Snug it up really good. This is a compression fitting, so the ferrule inside will compress. Nice and snug. You don't have to be solid tight, just a little snug. Oops. And then you want to mark where it ends, which will be right there. As you can see, I've got that on tape. And do the same thing, cut it off. Cut this. You got your hole closed up, ream your tubing. Nice and neat. It's nice, smooth, no burrs, no nothing, clean. Blow it out with a blower. You know, I'm not doing that right now. Just a little film here we just got going on. Sometimes the ferrule won't want to shove it on there for you. And there you go. That's your first. That's your set point, you know. There you go. You can snug it up like that. Tighten it up. You know, and that is basically how you get the system started. You know, unfortunately, this thing is not, you know, it's not. Get this piece out, fell off in here. Sorry about this. It's not, you know, not everybody can do this. But typically this is how you get it going, and when you start to put the fuel on here, you know, the fuel is going to go forward. This definitely is going to take a little bit more experience, a little bit of patience on how to do this. You'll have to, when you do this, you need to run a piece of tubing. You need to lock it. If you give my C-clamps out there, a little short set of C-clamps. Yep, right here. The fuel's going to go on the outside because that's where the fuel is at. Okay, I'll show you typically. Hold that for me, please, sir. And this is just, you know, you don't have to use these. You can use tie wraps or, okay. And typically when you plumb it, this is how you want it to be. Nice, close together, nice and neat. You would typically stick your tubing in here. You know, you can do this two different ways. You can take a measurement on this this part like this. You take a measurement how high you gotta go. You know, like I said, this is going to come into some instrument tech. I'm gonna see if I can just wing this for you and see if I can just knock it, get it on the first shot without doing nothing. Just taking a good. I'm going to use my different set of benders because I can get real accurate with them. They actually have the degrees on them. But sometimes if they're not close enough, there we go. Might be a little short, so if they don't always, this is why I go back and forth to determine which set I want. There we go. And out. I don't expect everybody to understand exactly what I'm doing, but we'll just see if we can wing this on the first shot. Doing this upside down. Huh. Looks like we might have hit it. So you get the general idea on what the process is. Normally you would go ahead and finish out your nitrous. Nothing different, you still bring it up a little higher. I just want to, no sense boring you with that on finishing that nitrous up, but I just wanted to show you how to get started on the fuel side. It's not too important that you have drilled it. Check for any burrs, looks good. Okay, we'll just take that off, thank you. Go ahead and tighten this up. Get it nice snug so it don't go anywhere. Okay. There you go. That's typically what it's going to look like, and you're going to duplicate the other side. And you know, it's just a trial and error. It's just a slow process, and a lot of patience have to be to go with it. You get 16 tubes with your kit, so try to be very, very careful on how you're doing it so you don't mess up. But if you don't really trust yourself, you can have the company. You can send the intake to the company, and they can do it for you. We flow it for you. We provide a service. We'll plumb it. We'll flow it. We'll get the desired fuel pressure that we recommend for your system. Give you a sorted of horsepower jettings, safe setting, and give you a good check on it on fuel pressure and timing as well. Timing is very important.
Show quality tubing.
Yep. So and that's typically, in a nutshell, what the beginning of your process will look like. Like I said, you'll bring your two nitrous ones out, drop them down, and your fuel will come up and duplicate the same side here.